You're listening to Central Illinois Business. Hi, Alex Ruggieri here. Thanks for joining us here on the show today. Got a fantastic interview lined up for you. First thing out this morning, here with Mary Shore. She's the president and CEO of Midstate Collections. Welcome.
Thank you.
And I said that kind of quickly, but there's just so many other things that you do, and to me, it's fascinating. You are also a local author working on business books and a public speaker, lecturer, doing a lot of different things.
This is true.
Yeah, and that's why I love having you on the show. You've been a past guest. I invited you back today because you have so many things that are, I think, valuable to our listeners, mostly business people or people who want to get involved in business or entrepreneurship. What are we going to talk about today?
Well, Alex, today, first of all, you might notice my voice is a little hoarse.
Just a little.
Just a little hoarse. And the reason for that is because I just spent the last week at an event in Chicago called Unleash the Power Within. It's
Okay.
Tony Robbins' introductory event. So for a $500 ticket, you get a 54-hour seminar that goes over 4 days. And
Amazing.
it is amazing. And I actually volunteered to work that event. So I helped people walk across fire. We did all kinds of fun things.
I just can't get over they really do that.
They really do it. And there's a fire team that builds the fire. It's incredible. People really use that fire walk as a way to break through their fears.
Right.
So to me, it's not really a dangerous thing to do when we think about walking on fire. The truth is, it's really some coals laid out on some sod. It looks more intimidating than it really is.
Mm-hmm.
But the feeling that people get is, if I could do that, what else can I do?
Right.
And that's the important mental breakthrough
Right.
that people have.
Yeah.
And I wanted to just talk about this today because, as a lot of you know, I do own a local collection agency. And if you've listened to my previous interviews, you know that my mission is to make people feel good about paying their debt. Now,
Right.
that didn't just start off that I opened a collection agency and thought that this was the way to do it. It really came from something I learned in 2005, the first time I went to Unleash the Power Within. A couple of things that fundamentally changed my life. So we all know when you go to a conference, you get bombarded, overloaded with tons of material. Content. There's lots of content, and it's overstimulating.
Right.
So I've just developed my own personal philosophy of, I just want to come home with one thing. If I can
like
come
that.
home, if I can come home with one thing and implement that, it'll make a change. Well, this particular one, I came home with two simple ideas. One was that what you focus on grows, and two was know your outcome. So this is, we read this kind of stuff all the time. It's, if you're focused on the negative, then you just see more negative. Or if you focus on, that saying, like, if you just bought a new car, let's say you just got a new Toyota Highlander, then all of a sudden you see Toyota
Yes,
Highlanders everywhere.
Isn't that true? Yeah.
So that's because it's
Right.
what you're focused on.
Right.
So you're focused on that new car, and then you never saw Toyota Highlanders before.
Right.
Now they're everywhere.
Yes.
And knowing your outcome. So I took
Now, when you say knowing the outcome, you mean form a mental picture of your goal, or what do you mean?
Well, I think some people can form mental pictures. I'm actually when I close my eyes, I don't have that ability to visualize things. So I just more think it. I think, what do I want my outcome to be? This can work with losing weight. This can work with starting a business, creating strategies, even working with things with your kids. If you're a teacher, what do you want the end result of your year to be? Those kinds of principles. So when I got home from learning these two things, I just started small, Alex, and I wanted the outcome to be the next person who calls on the phone is going to be happier at the end of the call than they were at the beginning of the call.
Wow.
So you see, I didn't start with this, I want my end result to be that I'm a multimillionaire and live on the beach in Tahiti.
Right.
I started with something very simple. And see, I didn't really have to think about how to get there. So when I said to myself, I want this person to be happier at the end of the call than they were when they called in, the magic was it worked. Because I was doing things that were going to promote getting that outcome. It was very spontaneous and it worked. And then I just kept repeating it more and more and more and came up with some really desirable results, so that over the last 10 years, I've been able to completely transform my business. Not only that, but write books about it, as well as have workshops about it.
Yeah, I love you do this thing called Words
that work.
That work. Yes, and I'm like, that is just so true.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there are words that really don't work, and people use them all the time. Why not use words that work?
That's right. Because you can really get closer. You can get closer to your outcomes if you are using the words that work philosophy. And that's something that I teach about. Anyone can find me to have a words that work workshop in your office. I'm happy to come there.
Cool.
So Alex, today you and I thought would be super fun if we did an exercise together.
Okay, great.
This is something I created as part of my leadership series, and I just call it end result thinking. People can call it all you want. Now, here in the studio, we actually have a little worksheet that we're going to do, but I'm going to describe it so that the listeners can just draw their own worksheet. Basically, there's just a box at the top that would take up about, 10% of the space on a page, that this is where you write the end result that you're looking for. Now, for my example, I used... Oh, and I want to say something else. The result of this end result thinking is that we're going to write a one-page action plan. So this is how I write a one-page action plan that really helps me become successful in business. So my end result was that I would like to hire 6 people who are right for the positions, have critical thinking skills, and are looking for long-term employment with growth opportunities. So that's what I put at the top of the page as my end result. Now, the next part of the page, which is going to be about another 10% of the page, we're going to write lines for bullet points. Now, on my paper, I have 6. You could do anywhere from 5 to 10 bullet points. And you're going to ask yourself this question, Alex. What needs to happen in order for this end result to be achieved? This exercise really works for everything. You just got to trust me on this. So for today, we have 6 spaces, and what we will do next is go to some broader descriptions. So Alex, I know you run a business and you work in real estate. If you needed to hire 6 people for your team who are right for the position, have critical thinking skills, and are looking for long-term employment with growth opportunities, what would be something that you feel would need to happen in order to achieve that result?
I would say you'd have to get the word out, first thing, that there are some opportunities, job opportunities for people. And, it used to be in the old days, put a classified ad, but now that, of course you would do that, but there may be other things too, like social media or your own personal network. Say, hey, there's an opportunity. We're having growing pains, and here's what we're looking for.
Right. So getting the word out.
Yeah.
That's what you could put on your sheet.
Right.
And then can you think of another one?
I think that it would be important to, if we were really looking for the quality of people, to have a written job description.
Wonderful. So written job descriptions.
Right. Another thing you could have would be some kind of a operating agreement, between the two. Some kind of you have the written job description, but then you may want to have some kind of an agreement that says this is how we're going to work together. I don't know, because if you're, in my case, I'm an independent contractor, and a lot of what we do is based on commissions. And so people have to be licensed and that kind of a thing. So we have more like team agreements as opposed to just, okay, you're coming to work and you're going to get $20 an hour or $15 an hour or whatever. Other than maybe somebody who is a receptionist type person, the other people usually share in the pie. So we'd have to have an agreement.
So what I'm hearing you say is to review your legal contracts.
Right. Review. That's good. Yeah. So you want me to fill out all 6?
Well, if you have
Okay.
more,
All right.
I
So,
mean,
this is interesting. Getting the word out, written job description, review legal contracts.
see how it's making you think?
Yeah, no kidding.
It's working, isn't it?
It is already. So I don't know what else you would have to do. I think that one thing you could do if you're looking for these people is to take a look at what the job pool looks like. In other words, let's say for a minute we're not talking about just me, but we're talking about somebody hiring somebody. You'd want to do a survey on the market. So if you're going to say hire a graphic artist, take a look and
Yeah.
see
So what you want to evaluate the current market conditions.
Right.
I
right,
love that.
Right.
And the reason that that's important is because what if your commissions are outdated or your
Right.
competition is offering a better benefits package or, you know, so evaluate current market conditions.
And that's not that hard to do given the information age.
That's correct. This is, and sometimes you even just have a partner, like you might have a friend in HR and you can just call up and ask and
Right.
maybe take somebody out to lunch. So these are great. And the reason I'm actually asking you these is because I already have my own.
Okay.
And what I want to highlight is that how 2 different people will come up with
Yeah.
a different list. And
Yeah.
they're both wonderful lists, but you know, it's how you collaborate
Coming from
on
your
things.
perspective.
Exactly.
Right,
And you think of things that I don't think of, and I think of things that you don't think of.
Right. And
So
some things are more important, for one employer than they are for another.
exactly right. So do you have any more?
Well, I would say that you may want to consider doing today. You may want to consider doing some kind of a background check.
Oh, lovely.
And I don't know how this works, but I mean, even like drugs and stuff, because I mean, background check and medical check. I don't know what's legal, so I don't know. But I mean, I think you can ask people if you have a policy that says, this is a drug-free environment or whatever, that you can say, we'd like you to take a blood test or something. I don't know how that works legally. I don't want to put out on the air since I don't.
But just the fact that you put it on the list means that it would go in the action plan. And then what we're going to do now as we write the action plan, that's when you set into motion how you're going to get that done.
Right.
So it's actually normal that you don't know the how-tos at this stage
good.
of writing
Yeah,
the
I
one-page
like that.
action
You said
plan.
that. Yeah.
So it's not, you don't need to be attached to wondering how you're going to get things done. This is just saying this is what we need to get done.
I love it because if all the lights had to be green before you went to the grocery store, you'd never leave the house.
That's right.
Okay, I got to take a break. I can't believe this, man. Time just whew. All right, we will be right back after a short word from our sponsor, and I want to talk about the rest of the one-page action plan when we do that. Okay.
All right.
All right. Stay with us. This is great. And we're back. You're listening to Central Illinois Business. Alex Ruggieri here. And I have Mary Shore. She is the president, CEO of Midstate Collections, but she's so much more than that. She is also a local author of business books. She's a public speaker and lecturer. And we are having a really interesting conversation about how one can do some strategic planning around what she calls the end result. Other people might just call a goal. And she's got it set up on literally on a one-page action plan where the end result is at the top. Then you start listing the things you would have to do that would have to happen in order to achieve that result. And we've kind of gone through that exercise, and now we're on the rest of is this the strategic part?
Yes.
Okay.
So what we're going to do now that we've broken down the things that need to happen in a nice, clean, bullet-pointed form is we're going to write the one-page action plan. Now, for timing purposes, Alex, we're going to use the one that I've already written out because this could take 30 minutes to an hour, and we've only got about 10 minutes, and I want people to really understand how beautiful this document is going to be. So just to review, our result is that we're looking to hire 6 people who are right for the positions, have critical thinking skills, are looking for long-term employment with growth opportunities. Now, my 6 things that needed to happen for me looks a little different than yours, but it's fine. Mine were assemble a team. So to me, that was a hiring team. Attract candidates, which you actually said get the word out. That's the same thing. To me, I also put update training material because our training department is extremely important in our success. Hire only the best of the best, which is really a rating system I created for candidates, and set training schedules for boot camp. Boot camp at Midstate Collections is we have a 3-week training boot camp that every employee, regardless of their position, goes through boot camp.
I love that.
It's
That
so
is
much fun.
really cool.
And they love it too. So now I'm going to go through this by taking each items and filling them in. So the first thing is assemble a team. This was my brainstorming on this. Number 1, assemble a team. Create a hiring team. The team will be Roxy, Alex, Deb, and Bob. Roxy will be the team lead and will be the main person to organize the resumes, interview, and hiring. Deb will assist in phone and in-person interviews. Alex, not you, Alex, but a different Alex. Alex. Right. I actually have 2 Alexes now. Alex will set up a testing and maintain the testing schedule. So we do like clerical, Excel, that kind of thing. Bob, who's HR, will coordinate advertising and review all of everyone else's efforts. So that was the team. Now, see how awesome that was?
Yes.
And that took me probably less than 5 minutes to come up with. Now, the next thing on my list is attract candidates. So here's what the action plan for that was. Sign up for a job fair. There was a local job fair going on at the time when we created this document. Advertise in the News Gazette and Indeed.com. Conduct staff meetings about the how of wow. Alex, the how of wow is really what we probably need to talk about next because I'm just going to blow you away with this how of wow. Update training material. Meet with Roxy and Misty to comb through the training book for boot camp and phone training to synchronize and perfect all the training materials. So every time we review it, we always find something.
So it's constant improvement.
Constant, continuous improvement.
That's great.
The next thing was set up an interview criteria. So meet with Roxy to coach her on how I want resumes reviewed and the interviews conducted. Discuss skill sets for each positions and things to look at and discuss from the resumes. Now, I remember this very clearly because I told her specifically that I wanted her to take 5 minutes before an interview came in, and I wanted her to highlight 3 things that popped out to her on the resume, and I wanted her to ask questions about those 3 things. And this really...
That's a real proactive way to engage people.
You know what? If you want to hire the right people and you follow this plan, you will get a home run.
Yeah.
And that's what we were looking for.
Yeah.
Next, number 5 on my list, hire only the best of the best. Now, that's kind of a conceptual statement, but I knew what I meant, and that's the important thing. Right. So whatever you write on your list doesn't need to make sense to the world. It only needs to make sense to you.
I like that.
So using the interview criteria and all the results of the interviews and testing determine who truly is the best fit. So what we did was we created a criteria, and then we categorized people to how they fit in that criteria, and we determined who is the best of the best. This helped us, like if we were trying to decide between 2 different people, you know what that's like. And believe it or not, using our rating scale, we were able to do that.
I love that because if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. And you're taking something that really is very conceptual, very esoteric, and that is personalities and that. And you're quantifying the touch points that are most important to you in the hiring process so that you can create a rating. And I'm not saying that's going to be the only thing you use, but what a great guideline.
It is a great guideline, and it helped us determine red flags. You know what I mean by that. Right. So the important thing was identifying red flags and knowing that that person wouldn't be a good fit if they had a certain red flag.
Right.
So then the last thing was, this is my last bullet pointed item, set up a hiring and a training schedule. So you can imagine, we only have 25 employees, and That's still a small business. Hiring 6 people all at once,
That's a big deal.
it's a major crimp in
Right.
our routine because training is 3 weeks. So this was the action plan for this. Roxy is creating a new hire document to keep track of hiring dates and review it with Misty, who's the trainer, for each new hire to make sure training boot camp 3-week agenda can be followed. Now, see, in our office, that was a very important step because there has been times in the past when we didn't. I mean, we have to think 3 weeks out for every person. And so, for example, if we didn't do that, then what if someone has a day off? Who's a trainer who's training someone that day, say on bankruptcies. Well, now we've got someone sitting around with nothing to do because we didn't synchronize our training schedule.
Yeah.
So it's really important that we do that before people are even hired. And it makes things run very smoothly. So that was the 1-page action plan. You can see it was simple, but man, did it get us results. We hired 6 outstanding achievers. I'm so proud of all of them. And if you actually do this end result thinking exercise, your outcome will be that you will be very specific on what you want. You will get clear on the action steps that you need to take. And you have a step-by-step action plan that as a leader, you know that you are the master and commander of the ship. Correct? And it's my job to monitor the progress of the course and make any corrections very, very quickly. If I'm headed into the iceberg, I know I've got to adjust things. Having this action plan, first of all, we didn't have any bumps in the road this time, but there are times that you do. But having this action plan, everyone was on the same page. Isn't that a great feeling?
I love it because, you get buy-in from day one. Because everybody's a stakeholder.
And people were excited.
Yeah. And why wouldn't they? Because they're stakeholders in the process. They probably helped you create your plan. And when they already have agreed to the strategies and they've agreed to what has to happen, or maybe even suggested, hey, this is what I think needs to happen, then they own it. And they're a lot more motivated, I think, to do it. As opposed to you just walking in one day and say, hey, people, this is what you're going to do.
They really were. And even the excitement for the job fair was outstanding. It's not something people are like, yay, we get to go work the job fair today. But my team, because we had
a plan,
they were rocking that job fair.
So cool.
We had so many people apply just because of the energy that my team was putting forth, and people were attracted to us because of that.
I believe it. You send off a vibe if you've got
exactly.
That energy. Whatever it is, whether it's confidence or whether it's just energy, people sense it. And the other thing I like about this is it's 1 page.
1 page,
we
simple.
talked about that during the break. A gal can have this up in her bathroom, in the morning when she's putting on her makeup and look at it and see it. A guy can be shaven, look at it, and compare that with a 20-page business plan, as we were talking before. It's just like anything. I have a guitar, and I love to play the guitar. And a friend of mine, I was complaining one time, I said, I never play my guitar. He says, where's your guitar? I go, well, I keep it. It's a nice guitar, so I have it in a case, and and it's in the closet so that it's protected. Take it out of the case. Really? Yes. Buy a little guitar stand and set it in your living room and put that guitar where you can see it. You're a lot more likely to play the guitar if you see it and you can just pick. Oh, I'll pick it up and play for 5 minutes.
If you're in the mood, because that way you don't have to dig it out.
Exactly.
If the mood strikes you,
right,
it's just right there.
Right, and having this, your goals right like that on 1 page that you can see is so much more effective and compelling than having a 20-page written plan that's spiral bound and looks great when you go to the bank, but gee whiz, nobody reads it. So this is great.
I want to say that this works for everything. So you could use this if you wanted to lose 20 pounds.
Yeah.
If you wanted to find a relationship. If you want to move across the country. Think about it. End result, I want to move to Hawaii. What needs to happen in order to move to Hawaii? Maybe you need to sell your house, find a job.
I just thought of a great screenplay for a romantic comedy where, somebody sits down with somebody like, a counselor like yourselves, and they, well, yeah, I want a girlfriend, and they fill all this out, and then the whole movie goes around, whether he makes those things happen.
The action plan. Right, because I think what would be smart in that is that part of it would be, looking at yourself and saying, what do you have to bring to this relationship that you're going to manifest with your action plan?
I love this. I love that because, sometimes, we talk to high school kids and stuff, and we have children, and they're all grown now, but, you talk to them about their goals, and, the girl would say, well, he's got to be 6 foot, and he's got to be tall, and he's got to be dark, and he's got to be handsome, and he's got to be college educated, and he's got to be,
right. That's too many.
Got this, that, and the other thing. And I'm like, and what do you got to be?
Right. Right.
What do you got to be in order to attract somebody like that? So really, that's where you need to look. You need to look at what you control.
That's right.
You can set some goals that might attract what you're looking for. So great stuff. I cannot believe you are wonderful, and I want to have you back again, and we will talk more about maybe Words That Work or this other sheet that you were talking, the ABC sheet.
Well, I think we could do How of Wow. That is really fun. The How of Wow is how to create wow experiences.
Okay, fantastic. I wrote that down.
The How of Wow.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks for coming again.
Thanks, Alex.
We have been talking with Mary Shores, President CEO of Midstate Collections, but she does so much more. And when is your book coming out? Do you know?
The book is going to come out in about a year, but we're working on 3 free ebooks that people will be able to get from my website, maryshores.com.
Okay.
And so we encourage everyone to get the ebooks, and we'll be breaking these types of topics down into smaller ebooks.
Oh, I'm going to subscribe. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you.
Please don't go away. So much more right after a word from our sponsor.